Hi, and welcome back to the channel. This is Joy. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. We are going to do a coloring of the Sketched Florals Rose stamp set, and I used my swatch guide from the coloring bundle that is available on the website, and I am going to be using the colors RV99, R59, R46, and R14, as well as G29, 46, 24, and 21. So anytime that I color a floral, I like to map out my leaves. So I used my lightest color, which is G21, and I colored all of those areas. Then I came in with the G29, and I mapped out the veining of the leaves as well as the shadow. So anywhere a petal is overlapping a leaf or another leaf is on top of another, I put in that really dark G29, and I just continue to do that until I have everything mapped out, and I find that that is the most helpful for me. And then I come in with that G46, and then a G24, and I just extend those lines and those shadows to get a nice blend. And I do that for every leaf and every stem. And then finally I come in with a G21. So my process is almost the same when I do the petals of the flowers, except for the fact that I like to concentrate on one petal at a time. Sometimes I'll break my rule and do maybe two at a time, but I come in with that really scary dark, which is that RV99, and I, like I said, put in that shadow, and then I start to put in the veining of the petal. I then take my R59 and I extend those shadows and that veining, and you can kind of see me feathering that in. And then I come in with the R46, which is a much brighter red, and you're going to get that vibrant color in there. And then finally for my highlight, I use that R14. And again, sometimes I get confused when I do petals. So the areas that are the lightest, like where the petal folds out, kind of bends over, that would be in highlight. So sometimes I come in with that R14 and I map that out so that I don't forget which way the petal is bending. I know that sounds silly, but that is a trick that I use. Now every once in a while, depending on the flower and how dark I want it to be, sometimes I leave out that RV99 so that I get some variation within my petals, so that my rose looks three-dimensional. And also in nature, not everything is perfectly perfect. You know what I mean? Like there's some variation depending on how old the bud is or how old the flower is versus, you know, if it's brand new. And I am going to show you this this one flower so that you can kind of see the repeat of the process. Just because sometimes I think it's really hard to figure out where those shadows go and where those highlights go. Now I mentioned that there is a coloring bundle, and that is part of our coloring book, our swatch book. You're going to get a light source guide, which is printed on acetate. You're going to get a foreword written by me that talks about the different techniques with Copics. So it's a really cool book. We're taking all month of June, and we're going to be coloring like 5 minutes a day at least, so that you guys have some inspiration and maybe that you can fall in love with the coloring medium of choice. Now mine is obviously Copics. Any alcohol marker would work the same as Copics, but you could use a lot of the same techniques with watercolor or with pencils. So really this is just a exercise of falling back in love with our mediums. You saw me do the buds, and now this is the part that I really wanted to concentrate on, so this is done in real time. The other portion of the video was sped up, but I am taking my colorless blender and I am dotting that down, and I'm kind of swirling that around, and I am bleaching out the red spots. And then what I'm doing is I'm going to create water droplets, and I know that this is something that people struggle with. So sometimes you have to repeat those area, so you let it completely dry, and then you go back in with your colorless blender and you reapply that. I do that on the leaves and on the petals of the roses. So the next step is taking your Scary Dark. In this case, for the red, it's the RV99, and I do like a little C at the bottom of each of the bleached out areas. And then I take my mid-tone, which in this case is an R46, and I do a C at the top of the droplet, so it gets that 3D effect, or water-like. So like when you see water on a flower, it kind of like picks up the color behind it, but it also kind of towards the bottom is darker, and at the top it's brighter. And then I come in with a gel pen, and I finish that off. I think this turned out really cool. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.